right there on the spot. Well, my thinking was, especially after that first incident when I having trouble getting the magazine and the weapon, I don't want one of my guys trying to put that needle in my arm in that condition, and he's jabbing all over my arm, and I'm laying there bleeding to death. I need the blood. So I said, okay, guys, here's what we're going to do. We're going to have a little practice. So I had been over to the dispensary, and I had gotten some needles, and I brought them over, and I said, we're going to practice putting the needle in each other. So that if we're getting shot at, you've done it before. It won't be the first time that you've tried to put a needle in the vein. They did not like that. The guys, okay, now swap partners. Yeah. Let's do it again. Let's do it again. And every so often we would go through that drill. Let's practice. Let's practice opening a can. You know, you don't want to have never tried to open that can before. When somebody's shooting at you and your buddy is bleeding to death, you have to have been through the whole process. Let's do it.
Well, these lessons that you learned that you passed on, I mean, everything from, you know, getting on the ground and patrolling 100 meters and then waiting. That's what we were trying. Now, I will say that once you got night vision, things are different because you didn't need to wait a half an hour to let your night vision adjust. You could go. But, you know, we used to do the same thing. We used to give each other IVs with red lens flashlights at night underneath a poncho because that's what you're going to have to do. And so those are the kind of things that you have to train. You have to train. And people that think that horrible thought that creeps into your mind that, well, when the time arises, I'll know what to do. That is not the truth right there. I got a quick question for you. How did you get the name Dynamite? Was that your nickname? Did they assign that to you? Because I'm surprised at this point your nickname wasn't Banana Tree.
Fortunately, you got your code name on day one. So after we got the briefing, the name, and then we had to select a code name. I wanted Ranger. Ranger was already taken, so they said, "Here are some others." And I saw Dynamite, and I said, I really do like to blow things up. So I'm small, and Dynamite probably works for me. I mean, I blew my neighbor's windows out when I was a teenager one time with a rocket that exploded on my launch pad. I didn't intend for that to happen, but I was always blowing things up. So, and then when I was there in Southeast Asia, I blew things up all the time. I blew bridges up. I blew up all kinds of things, and I always carried a lot of demo with me. So.
Good nickname. And that was your call sign too. Was that your call sign when you were in the field? It would be my call sign if I was wounded or something like that. Got it.
But call signs that we use were always 3-letter groups.
Okay. Got it. All right. You mentioned in your notes here that you gave me an op where you guys got hit with gas.
Yeah. That was
that had to be unexpected.
That was still with Deck's team. We had planned and rehearsed for everything, and we went in. It wasn't a hot LZ, or didn't appear to be. We didn't draw any fire going in. We got off the aircraft. The aircraft, took off. We're on the ground, and all of a sudden, we couldn't see. You couldn't breathe. This stuff is coming across the LZ, and, we're coughing and gagging because we didn't have masks with us. Masks were like helmets and flak jackets. That's extra weight you got to carry. And unless we were intending to use gas, we didn't carry it because it was just very, very rare that the NVA would use gas.
Yeah.
And in this case, we're on the LZ. Here comes the gas. We're not prepared for it. We had to call, for the aircraft to come back and get us out. It creates a real problem for pilots. If they don't have masks, and now all of a sudden they're getting all of the gas coming in, it's hard for them to see the instrument panel to be able to fly. But they came back in and they got us out. It wasn't a pleasant experience, and it was one of those things we didn't plan for it. Because it was such a rarity, and we just didn't do it.
I was surprised. We went through a gear list with Tilt, and they always carried a gas mask. And of course, because they always carried a gas mask, you know how many times they came across it? I think the number was 0.
Yeah.
Murphy's Law.
Yeah. A lot of times we would carry gas canisters. We'd carry a regular, like a
CS grenade.
A CS grenade, but we'd also carry the CS rounds for the M49, the 40 millimeter, so we could shoot those. But if we carried CS or the grenades, then we carried the mask too. But it was the masks were because we were going to use them, and if you use gas, you better have a mask, or you're going to be as bad off as the other guys. Goes without fail, the wind's going to change, and it's going to come right back on you, and you're in trouble.
Murphy's Law. You got another note in here about a mission. It says tree roots.
This was my last mission with RT Alabama with Deck, and we had gone up. We made the little fish hook. We came back. It was early afternoon, and we were going to take a break for a little while. So we had put out the claymores. I had put a toe popper out, and there were some strange trees in that area. I'm still not sure what they're called, but they almost looked like rockets with fins. The roots kind of came out. I mean, it kind of, they grow up the tree maybe 2 feet or so, and they'd come out like fins all the way around. So we were taking a break, so I thought, I'll just lay down between, these roots, and you won't be able to see me because I'm kind of down in there, and that's where I'll take my break. And then we hear the toe popper go off. I heard that loud scream, and as soon as the toe popper went off, it's just this barrage of AK-47 fire coming. Some of it, in our direction, some of it in other directions. They didn't know exactly where we were. But in that first barrage coming through, I had 3 AK rounds come through the root on my left side. Right across my shirt, I had just exhaled, and through the root on the other side, if I had just inhaled, it would have taken the top of my chest off when it came by. So it just grazed me, coming across. And I said, I probably should get out of here. Because the roots are not providing any, actual cover for me, just a little concealment. So I jumped around behind a tree, and, we set off the claymores, had a full-fledged, firefight going on. Eventually had to work gunships and things and get extracted. But one of the things that I also did was got another taste of the impact of adrenaline, because when I came out from behind a tree, I had taken my arms out of the straps on the rucksack, so I had to grab it with my hand, and I grabbed it with my left hand, and it weighed probably 75 pounds, but I'm not a big guy, but I'm tossing that 75-pound rucksack around like it's a pillow, and it's going to go with me as we fight our way down the ridge and toward the LZ. But I paid for it later on, after we got extracted, to realize I had pulled muscles in my shoulders, because my muscles wasn't designed to handle that much weight, but I had so much adrenaline pumping through my system then. And that, plays with it. So
as soon as you guys get contacted, as soon as those rounds start coming, you're calling prairie fire emergency.
Prairie fire. Yeah.
And then how long is it taking before aircraft show up on station?
Usually you'll have something within 30 minutes that you might be able to work, a gunship or something like that. But for the extraction ships, it might be an hour, depending, on how far in there you are. And it might be longer than that. But if you had bad weather, nobody's coming, because they can't find you.
How good was the weather prediction at that time? If you guys were you guys able to look out in a day and say, like, hey, there's going to be storms moving through here tomorrow? We at the different CNCs, we had our own Air Force meteorologist that tracked the weather, gave weather briefings, 2 or 3 times a day, to the command group. The teams would get them. We would get them before we would go out.
so that we would know kind of what to expect. And, we didn't launch unless the weather looked like it was going to be good, for the insertion, because you didn't want to get out there and all of a sudden you couldn't use the assets that you had with you. So, but still, it's kind of like today. The best weather predictions that are made are the ones the day after. We can tell you what probably happened yesterday, or at least with a high probability of what happened yesterday. But the weather change, it's where we were up north most of the time, it was a rainforest.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's going to rain every day.
So it's going to rain.
Yeah, every day it's going to rain. And the clouds would roll right down on top of the mountain and just totally conceal the ridge lines. So not only are you under triple canopy jungle a lot, now you've got a cloud cover over it. Mm. I mean, up above that, they can see fine, but they can't see where you are. They can't, you can fire the flares out. They won't see them because they're in the clouds. So.
Is it always the 1-0 that's carrying the radio and talking to the aircraft, or who usually was doing that for you? I know that Tilt said he did it. He would be like, "Yep, I'm going to talk to the aircraft."
Most of the time, I carried the radio. I mean, you had a guy. Mm-hmm. One of the three Americans was supposed to be carrying the radio. Usually the 1-2, if you had a 1-2. But I carried mine almost all the time. But even if I didn't carry it, I wanted to talk. So bring it over here. I want to tell them, what I need to have done. So, that gave me another 25 pounds plus, depending on how many batteries I carried, more weight to go in my rucksack. And that's if we used, the PRC 25 or 77. But I think Tilt mentioned at one point we had a commander take over CCN who said, "You're going to carry the KY-38, secure radio," which... the PRC 77 was about 25 pounds, and then it had to connect into the KY-38, which was the same square,
size.
but thicker, and they had to fasten together. So some people would stack them on a rucksack, one under the other. Uh-huh. Most people were wearing the 77 in the back and the 38 in the front. To help you balance, going up and down the hills and the mud.
It's a good theory.
But, to me, and my experience said, the more you can look like an empty pair of fatigues laying on the ground, the greater your chance of survival when somebody's shooting at you. So the more stuff you put on your chest or around your waist that raises you up in the air, makes you more of a... I mean, I get my rucksack shot up all the time. I mean, I'd be laying there in bullets and just zinging through the rucksack because it was sticking up, above me. But when you put that KY-38 on your chest, that pushes your body up another 6 inches in the air. So now the chances of you getting hit instead of the rucksack go up. So I didn't like to carry it. I only used it a few times. I mean, it had a pretty high malfunction rate. Yeah. And then...
Because it's not just on you. You got to make sure that the aircraft that you're trying to talk to is running their encryption device.
Everybody
right?
has to have that same encryption, which is an interesting story. We may get to a little later about that. But, yeah, it was a pain. But I wanted to talk on the radio.
And you guys didn't... I know Tilt, they didn't carry like a belt-fed machine gun in their elements. I think he said they never did, which to me was surprising because, like, you talk to the Vietnam SEAL platoons and even my SEAL platoons in Iraq, we carried as many belt-fed machine guns as we could. Like, we wanted to have massive firepower. But I guess for you guys, the jungle, the weight, it was too much.
My team carried an M60 machine gun. M60s are heavy.
They are heavy, indeed.
My team carried one time because I thought it would be cool. I carried the machine gun because I thought, man, the firepower I'll have with this thing I can show those guys on the other side there what war is all about.